some characteristics of Mediterranean climates. What we'll do is we have 5 slides here on the different areas of the Mediterranean. So we'll take a look at plants specific to those areas, and then we'll take a look at plants from all of those areas, kind of combined. So the Mediterranean basin. Canary Islands has the most diversity in the Mediterranean basin. I'm not going to talk about the Aeonium, because Linda will be talking about cactus and succulents in the afternoon, but only to say that you're familiar with the Aeonium. I used to think it was a native to California because it's all over the place. Most of them are from the Canary Islands, but because we have a Mediterranean climate, they do so well here. The Quercus suber, the cork oak, here is a picture of a man actually peeling the oak off the tree. It doesn't hurt the tree. You can peel it every 7 to 9 years. Your tour guide will tell you all sorts of things about it. By the way, when you tour, you can have as many questions as you want. Now, I find it a little invasive. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. But again, you see it on the hillsides all around. It's not a California native. It's from the Canary Island. If you have deer, you have it? Do you have deer? Do the deer like it? No, deer don't like, they don't like Epium. So if you have deer, it's really good for them.
I'm going to use my new question.
Okay.
About Pride Madeira.
Ray's using his one question.
Yes, the flower spikes are very long and upright, but every now and then something happens and they fan out. Is that a mite like in the aloe?
Does anyone know that? Ray's asking sometimes. Most of the time, your Pride Madeira have these big long spikes, but sometimes they kind of
It like dwarfs and it fans out and it's in a little tight cluster.
Fans out, it's in a little
It
tight
looks like
cluster.
what an aloe does with the aloe
Any
mites.
idea?
It's just the flower that does it.
No idea. Okay, for extra credit, 5 minutes.
No, that's the cresting.
Pardon?
You know about that. You were talking about that when
On Pride Madeira?
that's when they're cresting.
Oh, is that a crested on Pride
Yes.
Madeira as well?
Yes.
So it's not a spider moth,
No,
it's not a mite?
There are some plants that are crested. They get this weird form. Some say it's a virus. And I didn't really think of it as Pride Madeira. I thought of
Pride
it
Madeira,
as succulents and cactus.
I
So it's
see.
kind of a weird, nothing's wrong with the plant, no incest. Not to worry. On some plants that are crested, like particularly your cactus, if they're crested, they are collector plants. Maybe some of you have seen them. And I have a cactus that is crested, and if it gets a normal, beautiful, smooth shoot on it, cut it off. Cut the beautiful shoot off. You want it crested. Plant people are weird. Okay, status. You're familiar with status. This is Limonian Perezi. That is, again, native to the Canary Islands. And here's your Phlomis fruticosa in the mint family as well. What's next? Chile. It's kind of a little hard for me to find some plants on Chile. Grevillea Chileensis. What does the species name tell you about the plant? Chileensis. That's from Chile. How easy can that one be? The Grevillea Chileensis is the widest growing palm tree that there is. It contains vast amounts of sugar. So in the 1700s and in the 1800s, the poor palm was pretty much went extinct almost because people would use it for sugar. The wine palm. What else? It produces a fruit that tastes like chicken. Okay, Alstomeria? Okay, Alstomeria. Common name is Peruvian lily. What am I telling you? It's native to Chile. A good example of a bad use of a common name. Now, but the thing about the Alstomerias is they are native to Chile, and actually they are native to Brazil. One of the species, let's say the Chilean one, I might have this backwards, blooms in the summer, The other one from Brazil blooms in the winter. So what did the smart hybridizer do? He crossed the two. We have alstonarias that bloom year-round, but they're not from Peru. Oops. Oh, Calandrania. Are you all familiar with this? Oh, yeah. Well, this is a wonderful succulent from Chile and Francie.
No, it's not mine. Vicky Lugo, my mentor.
Oh, Vicky Lugo, your mentor. Master gardener Vicky Lugo gave these to Francie, who brought these in for us. These are calendranias. She has 3 big bags of them. Take them if you like. Please don't forget them. We'll make sure we leave them outside the door.
Just stick them in the ground?
Oh, just, okay, we won't count that as a question. They are
I have unlimited questions.
No.
They are so easy. Just stick them in the ground. They will grow, guaranteed. Mine grow with no water in the summertime. They'll bloom nicer. Oh, and the one thing you need to know about the calendranias is the stem has approximately 10 flowers on it, but only one of them is open at a time. They take turn. What did you, go ahead, that won't be a question. That's great. Donna said that's great. Say, what they do is one of them open at a time. So you just don't want one of these stalks, because then you just have one little flower. You want to plant them in mass. So don't just take one, take a couple. They're really nice. Easy to grow. Will grow anywhere, very little water. What's next? We have what we call the soapbark tree, Chilean, Sacchinaria. Soapbark tree, this is called soapbark tree because the bark will pull the bark apart. It will create a substance, kind of a foamy substance that firefighters use. You can make shampoo, you can make soap out of it. It gets a pretty little flower on it. And it has very deep roots. It's adaptation for our Mediterranean climates. It uses deep roots. If a fire comes through and destroys this tree, it will come back from the roots, which is a Mediterranean climate adaptation. Anyone have this? I don't think so. We have one in the garden. I had a hard time finding Chilean plants, like I said. What's next? Cape South Africa. Well, first here's a protea up here. And I brought one, because I found one in my garden today, but unfortunately it's not a very colorful one. But the reason I wanted, and I'm not passing it around, it's a little wet, but the reason I wanted to show it to you is, you see the picture up there, the colors, the pink and the black? Those are not flowers. Those are bracts, just like in poinsettias, what's that? Bougainvillea. Those are bracts, those aren't flowers. These are bracts. Your flowers are right in here. There may be hundreds of flowers, just so you know that about the protea. What else about the protea? The protea is probably the most well-known flower in the Proteaceae family. Pelargonium. I don't know if you all, on the training resource website, there was a little thing called If Time Permits. If time permits, I will tell you about the difference between pelargoniums and geraniums. That thing is this is a pelargonium. It's not a geranium, just so you know. This is, oh, by the way, this is Pelargonium cordifolia. Any idea why? Heart. It's heart-shaped. Cordifolia from Latin. It's heart-shaped. The leaf is heart-shaped. These Latin words do have meaning. These are geraniums. These are true geraniums. They are, we'll talk about it later. If not, just come and look at them and you'll kind of see them different. Or look at the PowerPoint. I explain it all up there in the PowerPoint. Leonotus, lion's tail, Leonotus leonurus. This is, again, in the Lamiaceae family. It's a mint family. It does very well in our climate. It's from South Africa. I wanted to get rid of mine. I was kind of I was kind of tired of it, so I cut it off. Okay, it's gone. Came back. Little puppy came back. I did that twice. Finally, I said, okay, you're gonna stay fine. It's It's got some medicinal and, dare I say, recreational uses. Brunia albiflora. Now you may be saying, and when you look at this plant, you may be saying to me, well, why are you telling us this? No one's going to ask us in the hotline. If I go to the fair and I'm at the Master Gardener booth, no one's going to ask me about this plant. Yes, this is true. My belief is the more you know about horticulture, the better equipped you will be to answer questions. You will probably never get anyone on the hotline that asks you a question about the Brunia albiflora, but it's a way cool plant. You'll see it you start to see it in the nurseries now, and it's used for floral arrangements quite often. That's the only reason I had to sneak a few things in. Okay, the question earlier, who asked the question about, if you look at this pincushion, this Leptospermum cortifolium, flame giant, I added here's the flame giant, and I thought, well, let's put this second pincushion in here. It's called high gold, but notice I just put an L, cortifolium. I did not retype that Leucospermum long name. I just put the L there. That's proper botanic usage of nomenclature. So if you have like a paragraph, typically you can just put an initial for the species, the genus name.
Is that kind of like you use the whole name, like fill out the whole name of an organization? The next time you use it, you put parenthetical, like B of A, Bank of America, parenthetical B of A.
So that's Donna's asking, is that like when I put in the newsletter San Diego Botanic Garden and I put SDBG in parentheses, the next time I use it, I don't want to type that whole thing out, so I can just go SDBG. It's kind of the same idea. She's right. It's kind of the same idea.
Does it have a limited time? I mean, if you go to the next paragraph, you have to say it again.
Is there a limited time? I don't know. I don't know if there's a limited. Just use your discretion. Oh, SP means the same as SPP period. That's a follow-on to her original question. Actually, SPP usually means there are many species or subspecies. One means that this is just a species. It's kind of, you don't really need to be too concerned about that. What's next? Oh, Australia, my favorite. Okay, I need to tell you something about Australia, and I can guarantee you will not get a question about this on the hotline or at a Master Gardener, Ask a Master Gardener booth. But this is important. Has anyone ever heard of the Coriolis effect?
Yes.
Okay. Coriolis effect has to do with things in the northern hemisphere and things in the southern hemisphere. For, excuse me, but if you flush a toilet in the northern hemisphere, it goes that way, right? If you flush it in this.
That is not correct.
Okay, later.
Sorry.
In the southern hemisphere, it goes the other way. Take a potted plant that might be a little root bound. Take it out of the pot and look at the roots. If you look at the roots, if you're in the northern hemisphere, they will typically go clockwise. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you guessed it, it will counterclockwise. I have no idea why. Look up the Coriolis effect. Some of the plants from Australia, the kangaroo paws, you may get a question on this one. They get this black thing on them. It's called black ink disease. It's a fungus. So what you want to do to prevent black ink disease is don't water your kangaroo paws overhead. If you see black leaves, cut them off immediately. The flowers make excellent cut flowers when you can cut them off and take them inside. And when they're done flowering outside on your plant, cut them way down to the bottom. And that will help eliminate the black ink fungus. The newer species, the newer hybrids don't seem to have this problem. Korea, this is a nice plant. You might see some in the garden. It's nice. It gets to be about 2 feet high and 5 to 8 feet wide. And it gets these little flowers. They call them fuchsias, but they're not like the fuchsias we know. And what's nice about it is they start blooming in the fall when other things aren't blooming. The acacias, You know about the acacias? A lot of people don't like the acacias. Before you recommend them, you might think about allergies. A lot of people are allergic. They are called, their common name is called wattle. You know why wattle? Ivana probably does. She's heard me before. Wattle. When the settlers came to Australia, they needed shelter. They saw these acacia flowers all over the place. They saw these acacia flowers. They started cutting the acacia flowers to use them as shelter. So they had a process. They would take the twigs and the stems, and they had a process, and they would interweave them, and they would take mud, and they would like glue them together. That process was called wattle and daub, D-A-U-B. So the acacias became known as wattles. Wattles. Lomandra, you'll see some of these in the garden. This is a grassy-like plant. It has rhizomes. It gets a little, well, you'll see them on your tour. It gets a little spike, and it looks really prickly. But touch it, it's soft. And flower arrangers like to use them. It's a nice alternative to grasses. It does not spread, it does not drop seeds and spread all over the place like a grass. It's nice. Grevillea. Oh, have I forgotten something? Oh, no, not yet. Not yet. That's different. Okay. Grevilleas are beautiful. Most of them are from Australia. They come from the ground. They start with ground covers way up to huge trees. The Grevillea robusta has been blooming around town recently. Huge. Don't buy it unless you have an estate. I just brought one of these because that picture just doesn't do it justice. We want to pass this around? Yeah. Can we give it to BJ? Sure. That's Grevillea, peaches and cream. The nice thing about some of these plants, particularly these Grevilleas, this one, peaches and cream, once it's established, that little puppy never stops blooming. That's the good side. The bad side is, you plant it right next to a sidewalk, what are you going to get? You're going to get a mess on your sidewalk all the time, so watch where you plant this. What's next? California. I'll pass around Arbutus, if you want to look at that. Ground cover to trees. These have small waxy leaves. I planted, this was from my yard, and it's got tiny little flowers on it. If anyone knows the species, let me know, because I don't know. What else do we have? We have Geophytes, which is a nice little California native. It looks like little snapdragons. Horticultural, or how we say the Matia poppy. In 1890, this plant was nominated for the State Flower of California. It lost by a landslide to the California poppy. Yes, it's got the biggest flower of any California native plant. Ceanothus, did we pass that around? Yeah. Pass that around. Okay. Very popular California native, and of course, California poppy. Let's take a look at some other things. Geophytes is kind of a term that refers to underground storage organs for water carbohydrates, protection from herbivores and fires. We have the Hemerocallis, is that the way you pronounce that one? The daylily. It translates into beautiful for a day. It is a nicer plant because it's evergreen year-round, even if it's not blooming, it's evergreen year-round. Cochrosma, you probably want to be careful about planting this particular plant. Invasive?
It is, but it grows without any water or anything.
Ray says
It grows
yes.
out between rocks, even.
Ray says it grows between rocks without any water or anything. So if you've got a place in Ramona,
No,
Julie, Humboldt, whatever. If you've got room for it, it'll grow anywhere. But if you've got a small place, watch out. Clivia. This is a geophyte from South Africa. And what kind of birds from South Africa? And they are tubers. And they are evergreen, which is nice. Diorama. This is really nice. Anyone go on the San Diego Horticultural Society tour if you saw the garden in the Liebenheim? The Callahans had one of these. I was working there. Everyone who saw this plant, whoa, what is that? Is it a fall? What is it? It's a corn from South Africa. It's evergreen, and it is just drop-dead gorgeous. Beautiful. And Zephyrantes, this one is from South Africa as well, and this is a bulb. And this one does go deciduous, but they're not really big, they don't clump, so you can kind of like plant them around, a little here, a little there. They'll peek their head up about this time of year, smile, and then that's it. So it's a nice little bulb if you don't have room for bulbs, actually. Ground covers, Damandia. You're familiar with this, right? Damandia. Nice ground cover, takes heavy foot traffic. The leaves, the foliage is kind of green, but you can see the silver on the edges. If the plant is stressed, the leaves will curl up. So you won't see much green, you'll see a lot of silver to protect it from the sun. And I didn't know this because I've had some, but I've never dug it up. It's got really long, and I don't know what long means, but it does have really long roots. And that's why it is so tough. We can pass around the Grevillea, flora. They're pretty well spent, but this makes a really nice ground cover on a hill. It grows fast. You get beautiful, if you can see the photo up there, it gets a beautiful display of flowers. And I'm comfortable. It's in the Proteaceae family, so kind of ignore it. Don't do much to it. It's happy on its own. Are you familiar with this one? You'll see it about the garden here quite a bit. Bothana capensis. Capensis means it's from South Africa. It's a succulent. I have a very good friend who gave me some once. It grows fast. It's just the easiest little ground cover. If you want some, if you want to try it, let me know. It's a very nice little ground cover. The last one, I have a terrible sense of smell, but this is called Darwinia citriodora. And it crushed the leaves. It smells like citrus. It's a really nice ground cover. Any idea where the name of the genus comes from? What Darwin? Charles. Wrong! No, wrong. It comes from his grandfather. Erasmus Darwin. He lived shortly after Carl Linnaeus. He was a physician and a poet, and believe it or not, he wrote about evolution. Long before his son Charles Darwin wrote about evolution. But his claim to fame is that he took the works of Carl Linnaeus, the 7 volumes that Carl Linnaeus wrote about botanic nomenclature, that was in Swedish and Latin, of course, and he translated it to English. And for that, he got a plant named after himself. Isn't that nice? Darwinia citriodora. What's next? Herbs. Not going to say a whole lot about herbs, just generally, herbs are any plants used for flavoring food, medicine, or perfume. If your culinary herbs are basic, Tyler's probably an expert on this. Culinary herbs are basically, you eat the leaves in culinary, the seeds and the roots and all the other parts are used for spices. The entire plant can be used medicinally or spiritually. And notice, one thing to notice the family on all of these herbs.
Lamiaceae.
That's all for the same thing. Shrubs, I passed around the Philotheca myoporides. Great plant, it only gets to be 5 feet tall, maybe by a couple feet. It's a slow grower because it smells. It's got this aroma, so it's a really slow grower, really small leaves, blooms once a year in January or February for a month. Feel free to recommend that to anyone, no special care. Kiwi is from New Zealand. New Zealand is not a Mediterranean climate, but they do very well here. Does anyone ever have problems with? Yes?
Oh, not problems. I have one.
She has one. They do well. Feel free recommending these to people. I've never had problems with insects, diseases. They see a lot of different cultures. A lot of different cultures. Same thing with Cupia. Cupia comes from the temperate and tropical Americas. They say, Agricultural Research Service of the USDA says that Cupia improves crops when used in crop rotation. They tested it with corn and wheat and had positive effects. Well, perhaps. It's in the same family as the crepe myrtle, by the way. And okay, we'll go on. Nice plant. Honey hummingbirds love it. We already talked about the Abutilon palmeri. Oh, and the other thing about the Abutilon palmeri, most of your Abutilons, they look like Chinese lanterns facing down. The palmeri faces up. So it's really kind of nice to see the flower. Fruit trees. We'll talk about fruit trees just for a moment here. We have the Areobatria, which is the loquat from, where's it from? China? China? China, Southeast China. Vine will grow from seed. By grafted versions, though, they taste a little better. When the fruit is the size of a nickel, you want to cull them and you'll get bigger fruit. The ficus, this is a kind of an odd plant in that the flower is inside the actual fruit. It's called a Syconium. We'll not touch too much more on that for now. The Acacellowania, this used to be called a viola, a guava. They say the guava is the very best tree to have. It's hardy, it's drought tolerant, no insects, no pests. It's ornamental, it's edible, both the flower and the fruit. You can prune it to any shape you want, and it's a beautiful landscape tree. Beautiful. And if you want to know if the fruit's ripe, shake that little cookie, they'll fall off. Pomegranate, we'll go on from here, we don't have a whole lot of time. It's another nice Mediterranean fruit. Ornamental trees, I think we'll just talk about two of these. We'll talk about the Arbutus. Arbutus is really trendy right now. There are two species of Arbutus that you'll see. The Maritina, which gets to be about 40 feet tall. It's got a really interesting bark. So be careful if you're recommending an Arbutus to someone for a tree. Because that gets big, 40 feet. The Arbutus uneo, is that correct? It only gets to be 15 to 25 feet, so that's the one you want to recommend. The fruit on it is edible, but one will probably do. Cercis occidentalis, beautiful California native. Before it blossoms, it drops its leaves. Any idea why? So it can give its energy to the flower. A couple other reasons. If the leaves are gone, its pollinators can find the flowers quicker as well. Another reason. And then screening. Vitex trifolia purpurea is a nice screening plant. It's called the Arabian lilac. They get really big. They get beautiful flowers on it. There's one down here in the Australian. In the Australian section, when people see it, they go, whoa, what's that? And it's beautiful. 9 feet by 9 feet. I have a neighbor that planted 3 of them. They get really big, be careful. And Anthoserichia, you'll see, Serichius means silky. You'll see these on your tour, touch them. They're really nice. They're in the Proteaceae family. Leptospermum, you're familiar with these. Most of them are from Australia. They're easy, they're a nice screening plant. If you have someone looking for a screening plant, they're very easy to grow. You can prune it, you can do anything you want to it. And the Pittosporum silver sheen. This is a nice one that glows. If someone's skin glows, nice tree. Bamboo. I have a look in if time permits, my slides. If you want information about bamboo in the afternoon, you look at the bamboo forest. The thing you need to know is there are clumpers and there are runners. If you're buying bamboo, buy a clumper unless you don't like your neighbor. Buy the runner.